Time now for the voice of the land on the Big Play Network with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Always Positive Jay.
There was a preseason game today. The Browns lose 21-20. Josh Dobbs looked pretty good. Jerome Ford continues to impress as a rookie. There's other rookies that are kind of impressing out there on the field, just like one of the fantasy football draft picks by Cade York. Did miss a 55-yarder, but hit from 50 earlier in the game.
He hit the upright.
He
did.
He
had the distance. He hit the upright.
Yeah, and that thing would have kept going. His 50-yarder looked like it was going to go for a lot longer. We were kind of my wife, some other people that we work with. We were at the game. We got tickets from work, and we were on the dog pound side, but in the club seats, kind of just sitting above. And that one, a couple that he kicked into that net, like you could just tell where he hit the net. He can kick longer. Okay, I mean, your thoughts on the team and the prospects, especially for those first 11 games. Do you want to see the starters play next week so that they have a little rhythm before that? Basically a 2-week break now between preseason final number 3 and the season opener in Carolina.
You know, now that the Watson situation is settled, and we know that we're going to, most likely see Jacoby Brissett for the first 11 games. I thought I would see more of Josh Rosen than we did. We saw an awful lot of Josh Dobbs today, which is fine. But I think playing them in the preseason is still kind of a risky thing. What you're doing is you're going to go up against other teams that are trying to get down to their 53-man roster, and you're going to see scrubs, second and third string guys, bubble guys that are going to try to make a play, try to make a name for themselves, try to get on that roster. And this is when you start to see some of the injuries happen. We can't afford an injury. It's bad enough that we are starting from scratch with a brand new quarterback, whoever it is, having to learn this offense, having to, Amari Cooper having to figure out who's going to throw him the ball and how they're going to get some rhythm. We've lost our starting center and then our backup center. And so we're on our third or fourth or fifth center. I mean, there are just too many risks of injury in my opinion. I don't think that the consistency that you want to work on and the chemistry and stuff is something that you can't just do in practice. On top of that, what we're going to see, what we saw a lot last week, and I didn't get to see too many of the games this week, is a lot of the defenses are just working on certain things. They're working on their blitz packages. They're working on their secondary coverages and stuff. So you're not even going to get a real feel for how our starters can do against the defense because you're not going to face a starting defense. So I'm fine with continuing to figure out who's going to make this roster and who's going to make the practice squad. I am super excited to watch Jerome Ford. I love this kid. I don't know that 4 running backs on my roster week 1 is really the way to go. At the same time, we've seen a lot of injuries in this running group. Last year, Dearness Johnson.
Do you think he makes Kareem Hunt more
and
tradable?
Did a great job. So, Ford, I think, I love him. I love the excitement that I get when I'm watching him as a rookie. And I'm still excited about, David Bell. We haven't seen a lot from Amari Cooper yet, but I think Bell is really going to be someone worth watching as the season progresses.
With how good Ford has been doing, do you think that'll make Kareem Hunt more easier for them to trade away if they get the right?
It's a matchup thing, right? Yeah, it's a matchup. So he hasn't really been facing hardcore defenses, but he's looked good. And the way he's cutting and the way he's moving looks good, which I think increases the amount that we can ask for. If someone calls and inquires about Kareem Hunt, it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt us to know that we've got plenty sitting there. He's definitely not going to the practice squad, right? He's going to make the roster because someone will take him. But I think it gives us a little more leverage because we can keep Hunt or we can ask an awful lot for him. He's in the last year of his deal, right? So we've only got 1 more year with him anyway. And as much as I like him and as much as he has proven himself to be a good dude, the last couple years, running backs have a short shelf life. They don't have a really long life in the NFL. And Nick Chubb is just far and away better, but he's got to have someone he can share reps with that's reliable. So he doesn't need more than 22 or 23 carries a game.
Not to mention Dearness Johnson's there already that he can rely on too. So I think what I think they're going to do is wait and see and let him play a few regular season games And by that time, we know, because we all play fantasy football, they're going to be at least 2 running backs that go down. And if a contending
Christian
team,
McCaffrey will be hurt by week 4.
yeah, and if a contending team gets
Carolina
one
already
hurt,
has our phone number, right? So they'll
Yeah.
just call and say,
His
listen,
value-
can you throw
like-
Kareem in?
yeah, we'll just send him right back
Yeah.
down there with Baker.
Yeah. Kate, you also mentioned David Bell there, and Jay and I were kind of talking before, and his buddy unfortunately passed away. One of the main things that he said and told people kind of trying to get into this industry or tough businesses was don't just talk about it, be about it. But David Bell after the game today, I'm going to kind of touch on something he talked about. He only focused on the one catch he didn't make. And Didi Kinkawala, who does a great job for NFL Network and has been doing it for Channel 5 for the preseason stuff and been covering the Browns a little bit more than the Steelers like she has in the past, she said, well, you didn't drop it. The defender knocked it out of your hands. And he said, if the ball hits my hands, I gotta make the catch. I got to show that I'm reliable. These are the types of guys that you want on this roster. And if they're going to be part of your depth, your third, fourth wide receiver, you want guys like that have that mentality right after the game, immediately after it finishes.
Yeah, and I don't want it to be in his head for the rest of the week.
Right.
But I want it to matter to him today. And then, it's one of the nice things about baseball is you get rid of it because you got another game tomorrow and another game tomorrow. With football, you've got 7 days to think about every mistake you made. And while, he had 3 catches today, averaged 15 yards. I think his long was 22. And that's good. I want him to understand that dropping it matters. And you're right. It wasn't a drop. He let the defender get to him. But that's part of being a rookie, right?
Yep.
It's part of learning what NFL defensive can do and learning how to protect yourself, get an arm up, get that ball tucked, to do a little something so that the defender can't knock the ball out of your hands. As long as he learns from this, and I'm sure he'll be watching a lot more film this week, then I think it's fine. But I absolutely love that attitude because every play does matter. Every snap matters. Football is a game of inches. And again, I'm all about the cliches, but they're cliches for a reason. Mm-hmm. Every single catch you don't make could cost you a game. You just never know which one is going to be the one that mattered the most and that turned the momentum around. So I love that he's critical of himself in that way. I just need it to be in a healthy way so that he's all right.
24-hour rule.
I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to get it out of my head. And we're on to the next game, the next tee, the next whatever you want to, say, and then move on from it.
Well, it always happens with everybody. The offense always gets talked about. The reason I think that they can still make the playoffs with this suspension is I think this defense is going to be one of the top 3 defenses in the league. I have so much faith in this defense. How do you feel? How good do you think they will be? And it seems like the only weakness everyone seems to talk about, which I don't know, it may be a little overblown or something, is the defensive tackle position.
I love our defense. The problem we're going to have is if our offense cannot sustain drives, they're going to be gassed in the end of the third, early fourth quarter, and that's when we're going to see bad things happen. The offense, even if we're not putting up points, still has to be able to sustain drives. You have to be able to let your defense get a break and get some rest so that they've got, you can't be turning the ball over in the red zone to somebody. You can't be giving them free yardage, and then your defense has to do that much more work. We've got 11 weeks until Deshaun comes back. We've got to win, in my opinion, at least 8 of those games because he's going to be rusty when he gets back. And we're in a division that I think is going to be very hotly contested this year. So, we need to do something if we want to make the playoffs. But I like our defense. But like I said, even special teams is important. But for me, the key is really the offense being able to take time off the clock. We've always struggled with that, right? You have a lead in the fourth quarter, and I can't kill a minute and a half. I can't kill 2 minutes. You've got to be able to kill 2 or 3 minutes off that clock if you want to start winning some of these games that we've lost in the past, and you want to make sure that your defense gets at least a little bit of rest before they've got to go back out there and hold somebody.
And speaking on that, then, if the defense were put in positions more often than not, and we don't want to see that, but if they were put in that position more often than not where they have to come back on the field a lot throughout the game, teams are going to need depth, and the Browns are going to need depth. Where do you see maybe the biggest areas of concern in terms of depth, position-wise, and even on the offensive side? Where are those positions, that one position or a couple positions you see that we haven't seen that we're actually going to have depth for. It's going to be a big concern all season until someone proves themselves.
Well, clearly at center, because we've already lost a couple. Jay hit on it with the defensive tackles, but I'm always concerned about our secondary. I'm concerned about the corners and the safeties, because that's where we've had, God love Denzel, OHIO. We've had some injury issues.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some missed weeks, and with that whole crew, the injuries, it's only a couple weeks and then they're back again. But we haven't had very many games where everybody's available, and that is really a larger concern for me, because I think you can plug and play a little more when you're talking about guys on the line than you can with a specialty position like someone who's playing in the secondary, and you really we need our corners and our safeties to stay healthy this year.
Yeah, and it seems like they're definitely trying to be a ball hawking type defense. I mean, the main point in the press conferences after today's game defensively was they didn't take the ball away. They didn't take it. They took it away 3 times against Jacksonville. They didn't take it away today, and we know that these games matter for teams to fill out their 53-man roster, for guys trying to fight for spots, for all those things. It doesn't matter for your win-loss record, but it does matter in those things. And it looks like a ball-hawking cornerback room, but the soft tissue injuries just seem to be the problem. Listed today was Greg Newsome as a hamstring. Yeah. I don't know how serious it is, because he wouldn't probably play anyways, but those are not the things you want to see listed on an injury report right now.
Right, and I get that it's preseason, and so we're not really game planning. We're not doing the typical game planning where we're trying to stop the Eagles. We're like, we want to work on this kind of thing. We want to work on that kind of thing. But there's also like a morale, a mentality. You want your defense to just be and just full of themselves. And that means if you want to run ball hawks and you want these guys to be like, as soon as that ball is in the air, it's mine. I may be on the defense, but that is my ball to go get. You need them to have some success doing that. And you need to let them do that in some of these games in the preseason, so they get a little taste of that. They're slapping each other 5 on the sidelines, and they're, taking the ball all the way home with them. And just that kind of stuff pays dividends when you get to the regular season, because they're full of themselves about it. They're arrogant, I guess. And I don't usually like arrogance in my football players, but I do in my defense.
Yeah.
As long as you can back it up, you be as confident and arrogant as you want to be. And so those things do matter. And I think they're going to have to do more of that in the next preseason game, because you want to roll into the regular season. You don't necessarily need a win, because the Detroit Lions and the Cleveland Browns can both tell you what going 4-0 in the preseason does for you, because we both went 0-16 after a perfect preseason. But you need to at least have small victories on the field. You need to have plays that work for you. You need to feel like you can
like
get
the Emerson interception ripped that dude right out of his hands. Like that confidence when he went home, like he's like, oh, it's a lie. Like that helps. Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah, well,
it does.
And
it's morale.
We hope he doesn't have a concussion, because I think Coach Stefanski after the game said he was checked for a concussion. His finger injury, like any injury there, he wasn't concerned about at all. But I think someone followed up and said, was he checked for a concussion? He said yes. So you hope the best there, because then that's another issue there in your cornerback room. But to be honest, the preseason, it should be, and your training camp should be about it. You don't maybe necessarily establish your identity, but you should start building one, and definitely establishing good habits going in, and get a little bit of that swagger back that you haven't had for several months. So
and I think our defense is tired of everyone talking about the offense.
Yeah.
We're talking about Deshaun. Before that, we were talking about Baker. We're talking about Nick Chubb. And then you got, Myles Garrett and some of the other guys in the defense are like, hello, we're here. We're doing the work. We're the ones, and they're really going to be the ones that we rely on. I would say the first 6 weeks of the season, if we can hold opponents to 21 points or less, that we're going to win the first 6 games. That's good. That's, for me, the magic number these first 6 weeks, which means our offense has to put up some points. But I think a lot of the work is going to rely on the defense to get this season started.
Yeah, and I think the defense is taking it on their shoulders to be that you're going to win football games with all 3 phases. That's a common cliche. You said it. We say it on the show all the time. There's a reason why there's so many cliches in sports, because they come to fruition so often.
They're true.
But, all 3 phases are going to have to come through, but the defense is going to have to take the brunt, the lion's share of a lot of this to get.
Because they're the most cohesive unit.
Yes.
They've been together. They've played together. We haven't, you're changing quarterbacks, so you might as well be changing the offense all the way around. The defense has the consistency that I want for this whole team.
Oh, and Miles
which was
Garrett
my biggest
too.
problem with getting rid of Baker was just because we were finally getting some consistency. We have that on defense. They should be leaps and bounds ahead of the offense when the season starts.
Yeah, that freak on defensive end called Miles Garrett, he's pretty good too.
Yeah, and he's got his running mate on the other side of the line. You can kind of get inside with Jadeveon Clowney. He came back. There's a reason why this team has still got to have high aspirations, even with having Jacoby Brissett instead of Deshaun Watson. I won't ask you if they go for Garoppolo instead of having Brissett. I think that the Browns have kind of pretty much set on Brissett, and everybody feels confident in him. I will ask you the final tough question on the Browns before we take a break and transition to Guardians, because not enough people are talking Guardians, as you said during the break, Kate. But Kate Arhar from ourturffootball.com joins us. How does this season end? If you make, I'm not a big prediction person, but
I actually have another question before.
Okay, but how does this season go for the Browns, based on what we know right now about this team?
It's so hard. I think we need 11 games to make the playoffs. Looking at this division, I think that's what we're going to need, and I don't know that we're there yet. I think we're 9 games. I could be wrong, but I've been always positive Kate for so many years, and then I get crushed when it doesn't work. So I'm hoping we can get 9 games and at least finish above 500, which still bothers me that there's 17 games and I can't just do 8 and 8. I have to do 9, and nobody could be 500. So I'm hoping for 9 games, but I think it's going to take 11 to make the playoffs. And I think this division could very well send 2 teams to the playoffs.
Here's a tough one. It's the weirdest question because it's tough, but it's your dream scenario, but worst scenario. Browns win the Super Bowl. Deshaun Watson gets up there and he gets the MVP trophy. How do you feel?
I knew you were going here.
It's a tough question, but I wanted her opinion. I wanted a female's opinion on this, because I would feel really weird of dude, it wouldn't feel right to me. And I've wanted it for so long, but it's I can't help but feel all the pain of so many girls that see him up there getting that trophy and just being so hurt from it. That's what I will feel.
Yeah.
Kate?
That's really hard because I really want to separate off the field from the field. And it's football and it's the Browns. And if he can play and if he behaves, right? So you're assuming we go to the Super Bowl, we win, he gets MVP, that he has followed all the rules this year. There have been no more incidents. I'm going to take it with joy and with happiness, and I'm going to say we have made a change in that young man's life, and that if he hadn't come here, he would have continued that behavior in Houston, and how many more women would have been affected. But by having him come here and having all this come to light, we have changed his mind and his behavior, and we have saved women from going through what those other women went for. And I'm going to try to appreciate that moment for that.
And you got to be so happy for the Nick Chubbs, the Miles Garrett, the Denzel Wards, the great guys on this team too,
and the fans that have been around forever. I'm gonna be so confused. It reminds me of when we tied Pittsburgh. I don't know what to do. I'm what do I do with my hands? I don't know what to do right now. Oh my God, it's gonna be so confusing.
You have little tiny hands too, Jay.
I do not have tiny hands.
If we gotta go, we'll go through a combine stuff. We'll measure and we'll let you know. Okay, what his hand size actually is.
I ain't got no Kenny Pickett, Carney hands.
Oh, jeez.